The great hall of the Silver Pines Pack had never been so quiet. Tall windows let in the last light of evening, falling across long stone tables where alphas from 6 neighboring packs sat waiting. Once a year, on the night of the Accord, old rivals set aside their quarrels to speak of borders, trade, and peace. It was supposed to be a night of careful words and calm faces. Nobody expected it to become the night everyone would remember for years. Alpha Ronan Blackwood stood at the center of the hall. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of quiet strength that made other wolves lower their eyes without being told. Tonight, though, his jaw was tight, and his eyes refused to meet the woman standing 3 steps behind him. That woman was Elena Voss. Until this moment, she had been his mate, his Luna, the one who had once stood at his side in front of these same alphas, proud and sure. Tonight she had been told to stand behind him instead, like a servant waiting for instructions. She already knew why. "I release Elena Voss from the position of Luna," Ronan said. His voice was steady, but there was a crack beneath it that only someone who had loved him for years could hear. "She no longer speaks for this pack. She no longer stands beside me." For a moment, nobody moved. Then a ripple went through the room. Chairs creaked. Someone drew in a sharp breath. Every eye in that hall turned toward Elena. She felt the shame of it land on her shoulders like a heavy coat, but she did not let her face show it. She had known this moment might come. She had spent weeks preparing herself for it in the quiet of her room, telling herself that whatever happened, she would not cry in front of people who had come here to judge her. She simply had not expected him to do it like this. Not in front of witnesses who would carry the story home with them by morning. Not in front of alphas who would whisper about the broken Luna of Silver Pines for seasons to come. 3 months. That was how long it had taken for lies to unravel a bond that had once seemed unbreakable. It started small, the way most terrible things do. A missing letter here, a rumor there. Ronan's cousin, Damien, had always resented Elena. He resented that an outsider, a woman with no powerful family behind her, had won the heart of the future alpha. When Damien brought Ronan a set of letters claiming Elena had been secretly meeting with a rival pack, trading pack secrets for protection, Ronan had wanted to believe they were false. But doubt is patient. It waits in the corners of a mind and grows a little every day. Elena had denied it, again and again, had sworn on the moon that she had never betrayed him. She reminded him of the day she had stepped between him and a blade meant for his heart, taking the wound herself so he would live. None of it had been enough. Doubt had worn him down until he stopped listening altogether. "Say something," Ronan said now, and there was an edge in his voice, almost a dare, as if he wanted her to break down so he could feel justified in what he had just done. Elena lifted her chin instead. "There is nothing to say. You have already decided what I am." The silence that followed felt endless. Then, the burning began. At first it was only warmth, low on her collarbone, right where her moon mark had rested pale and quiet since the day of their bonding. Every true Luna carried such a mark, a soft crescent shape given by the moon itself as proof of a mate bond. Elena's had always been faint, gentle, a private thing between her and Ronan. Now the warmth grew, spreading like a small flame catching dry grass, and within seconds it became a burning so intense she gasped aloud. Light poured from the mark, bright, silver, impossible light that filled the hall and made every shadow flee to the corners. Every alpha in the room rose to their feet at once. Moon marks did not glow like this, not in living memory. Not in the memory of their parents or grandparents. There were only old stories, tales told by firelight, about a mark so rare it appeared only once in many generations, called by the elders a sovereign mark. It was said to appear only when a true mate bond, one recognized fully by the moon, was wrongfully broken. It was not something anyone in that hall had ever expected to witness with their own eyes. "That is not possible," breathed Alpha Corvin of the Ashford pack. The very pack Elena had been accused of secretly helping. He stared at the light blazing from her collarbone, his face caught somewhere between fear and wonder. "I have only ever seen that mark described in the old codex." Ronan's face drained of all color. He understood, as every alpha in that room understood, what a sovereign mark meant. It did not appear for false mates. It did not appear for someone who had truly betrayed her bond. It appeared for one reason only, when the moon itself judged that a true mate had been wronged, and declared her innocence for all to see. He could strip her of her title. He could send her to stand behind him instead of beside him, but he could not undo what the moon itself had made, and now everyone in the hall could see it glowing for themselves. "Ronan," Elena said quietly. For the first time that night, her voice trembled, not with grief this time, but with something sharper, something like vindication, finally allowed to surface after months of being pushed down. "You said I no longer stand beside you." "It seems the moon disagrees." A chair scraped back. Alpha Corvin stepped forward, and to the shock of everyone watching, lowered himself to one knee. An Alpha kneeling before another Pax Luna was almost unheard of, reserved only for the most solemn oaths. "Luna Voss," he said, deliberately, loudly enough for every corner of the hall to hear. "The Ashford Pack owes you an apology. 3 months ago, a man came to us claiming to represent Silver Pines. He asked us to forge letters in your name, to make it look as though you had been meeting with us in secret. We refused him and sent him away. I see now that we should have warned you, and for that, I am sorry." Gasps rippled through the room. Every head turned, searching for the man Corvin had just described. Near the back of the hall, Damian Blackwood had gone pale as bone. He rose from his seat, moving quickly toward the doors, but found them already blocked by 2 of Corvin's own guards, who had clearly been given quiet instructions before ever stepping into the hall that evening. "Let me through," Damian said, his voice cracking. Nobody moved to help him. Ronan turned toward his cousin slowly, understanding breaking across his face like a wave finally reaching the shore after a long, painful journey out at sea. "You," he said, and the word was barely more than a whisper. "You told me she was meeting with them. You showed me letters. You said you had proof. Ronan, listen to me." "I am listening now," Ronan said, and his voice had turned to something cold and final. "For the first time in 3 months, I am actually listening." Damian's shoulders sagged. There was nowhere left to run, and no lie left strong enough to hold against the light, still glowing from Elena's collarbone. A light that seemed to grow brighter the longer the truth stood exposed in the open air. The room buzzed with hushed conversation, alphas leaning toward one another, murmuring about what they had just witnessed. Elena stood very still at the center of it all, feeling something she had not expected to feel this night. Not triumph exactly, something quieter, relief, mixed with a grief she had been carrying so long it had become part of her, now finally allowed to breathe. Ronan turned back to her. The alpha mask he had worn all evening had slipped, and beneath it was the man she had fallen in love with years ago, the one who used to bring her wildflowers from the eastern ridge because he knew they were her favorite, the one who had once promised her, quietly, in the dark, that nothing would ever come between them. "Elena," he said, and his voice broke on her name. "I didn't know. I should have trusted you. I should have trusted what we had, instead of listening to him." "You didn't ask," Elena said. Her voice was steady now, the tremor gone, replaced by something firmer. "You decided. In front of everyone. So now, let everyone watch what happens next." She turned away from him and faced the gathered alphas instead, her moon mark still glowing faintly silver, a brand of truth that no one in that hall could deny, no matter how the story might be told afterward. "I do not know yet what I am to this pack," she said, her words carrying clearly across the hall. "But I know one thing, I will not be decided for again. Not by fear, not by lies, and not by anyone who claims to love me while refusing to trust me." She walked toward the doors, and the guards who had blocked Damian's escape stepped aside without a word, letting her pass. The silver light from her mark trailed behind her like the last note of a song, and for a long moment after she left, nobody in the hall spoke at all. Ronan did not follow her immediately. He stood in the center of the great hall, surrounded by alphas who had come expecting to discuss borders and trade, and instead had witnessed something none of them would ever forget. He looked at his cousin, still held near the doors, and felt something harden inside him that had been soft and trusting for far too long. "Take him to the West Tower," Ronan said quietly. "He will answer for what he has done, to the full Pack Council, in the open, the way I should have insisted on answering for what I did tonight." The guards obeyed. Damian was led away, his protests fading into the corridor beyond, until the hall was left with only the low murmur of alphas, discussing what they had seen, and the empty space where Elena had been standing only minutes before. It was Alpha Corvin who finally broke the silence, stepping close enough that only Ronan could hear him. "A sovereign mark is not something that fades quickly," he said. "The moon does not offer proof like that and then take it back. Whatever happens next between you and your Luna, every pack in this hall will remember what we saw tonight. I suggest you spend the coming days making sure the story that spreads is one you can live with." Ronan nodded slowly, the weight of the night settling over him fully now. He thought of the past 3 months, of every night he had lain awake with doubt gnawing at his chest, of every excuse he had made for believing Damien instead of the woman who had bled for him without hesitation. He thought of how easy it had been to let fear make his decisions and how much it had cost. He left the hall not long after, walking out into the cool night air, following the faint trail of silver light that still lingered where Elena had passed. He found her eventually, standing alone at the edge of the training grounds, looking up at the moon as though searching for answers in its pale face. "I don't expect you to forgive me tonight," he said quietly, stopping a respectful distance away. "I don't think I have earned the right to ask for that yet." Elena did not turn around immediately. "No," she agreed, "you haven't. But I want you to know," Ronan continued, "that whatever title I stripped from you in that hall, it never touched what you actually are to me. I was a coward. I let fear speak louder than the years we built together. That is on me, not you, and I intend to spend as long as it takes proving that I understand the difference now." Elena finally turned to face him. The glow on her collarbone had faded to its usual gentle warmth, quiet once more, but neither of them would ever forget what it had revealed. "Words are easy, Ronan. I have heard plenty of them tonight, from you and from your cousin both. It is what you do next that will tell me who you really are." "Then let me start by doing what I should have done from the very beginning," he said. "Ask you honestly, and listen to whatever you tell me." For a long moment, Elena studied him, weighing the man in front of her against the alpha who had spoken those cold words in the great hall only an hour before. She thought of everything she had endured, the whispers, the doubt, the humiliation of being told to stand behind him instead of beside him. And she thought too of the years before all of that, the ones worth remembering. "Ask then," she said finally, "but understand this. Whatever I choose after tonight, it will be mine to choose, not yours to decide." Ronan nodded, and for the first time since Damien had first brought him those forged letters, he felt something like hope beginning to return, fragile but real, glowing quietly in the dark, the same way her mark had once glowed bright enough for every alpha in the hall to see. The moon watched on above them, silent and patient, as it always had been, waiting to see what would come next.